dear children, welcome back. I am Dr. Jisha Jo. In this video, we shall study about the composition of blood with special reference to the plasma and the red blood cells. Blood consists of two parts. The fluid part, which is called as the plasma, and the cellular elements. So the plasma is the fluid part or the liquid part of the blood, and it constitutes about 55 to 60% of blood. Whereas the cellular elements include the RBC, the WBC, and the blood platelets, which constitute about 40 to 45% of the blood. So the blood consists of plasma, which is the fluid part or the liquid part of the blood, which is about 55 to 60% of the blood, and then the cellular elements, which is about 40 to 45% and comprises of the RBC, WBC, and the blood platelets. Now in this session we shall see more about the plasma and the RBC. Now first we shall move on to the plasma. Plasma, we have seen, that is the fluid part of the blood or the liquid part of the blood. Fluid part of the blood is the plasma. It is light yellow in color and it's alkaline in nature. Light yellow in color, light yellow, and it is alkaline in nature. Alkaline in nature. Now what are the constituents of plasma? Plasma contains, the major constituent of plasma is water, which is about 90 to 92%. 92% of the plasma comprises of water. The other components of plasma include proteins, inorganic salts, and certain substances in trace amounts, which we say other substances which occur in very small amounts or trace amounts. So these are the components of or constituents of the plasma. About 90 to 92% of the plasma is formed of water. Then proteins are present, inorganic salts are present, and other substances are present in trace amounts or in small amounts. Now, the inorganic salts present in plasma are sodium chloride and sodium bicarbonate. Sodium chloride and sodium bicarbonate are the inorganic salts present in plasma. Now coming to the other substances which are present in trace amounts or small amounts, they are the amino acids, glucose, hormones, amino acids, glucose, hormones, fibrinogen, and urea. These are some of the substances that are present in trace amounts in the plasma. So once again, plasma is the liquid part or the fluid part of the blood. It is light yellow in color. It is alkaline in nature. The components of the plasma include 90 to 92% water. Proteins are there. Inorganic salts are present. The inorganic salts present in plasma are sodium chloride and sodium bicarbonate, and the other substances which are present in small amounts are amino acids, glucose, hormones, fibrinogen, urea, etc. Now the plasma from which fibrinogen is a soluble protein that is present in plasma. This plasma from which fibrinogen has been removed is called as serum. Now moving on to the cellular elements, we have already seen that there are three types of cellular elements in blood. They are the RBC, WBC and the blood platelets. Today we shall discuss about RBC. RBC, which are the red blood cells, which are called as erythrocytes. Erythrocytes. Now coming to the shape of RBC, they are small, very minute, small in size, minute in size, and they are biconcave disc shaped. Biconcave disc shaped. Okay, so that means this is the shape of RBC. It is biconcave disc shaped. Concave on both sides and it is disc shaped. So RBCs are small in size and are biconcave disc shaped. These features of RBC, how does it help the RBC? The small size helps the RBC to move through the minute capillaries. They have to squeeze through the minute capillaries. We know they are the carriers of oxygen. We have studied in our lower classes. So the small size enable the RBCs to move through the minute capillaries. Capillaries are the smallest blood vessels, and the small size of the RBCs help them to squeeze through the minute capillaries. And the biconcave disc shape. This shape, the biconcave shape, is due to the absence of a nucleus in the RBC. So this particular shape, the biconcave shape, if there was a nucleus, the shape of RBC would have been like this. This would have been the shape of RBC if there was a nucleus in it. So mature RBCs initially in the young stage, they have a nucleus, but when they mature, they lose their nucleus. So that is how they get this particular shape, the biconcave disc shape. And this biconcave shape makes the RBCs as efficient carriers of oxygen, or they increase the surface area for the absorption of oxygen. So this particular shape provides large surface area for absorption of oxygen. Okay, so RBCs are otherwise called as erythrocytes. They are small and biconcave disc shape. The small size of the RBCs enable them to move through the minutest capillaries, and the biconcave disc shape of the RBCs help them to be efficient carriers of oxygen by providing large surface area for the absorption of oxygen or for the transportation of oxygen. Now, there is a pigment that is present in RBC, that is the respiratory pigment. The respiratory pigment that is present in RBC is hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the respiratory pigment that is present in RBC. Now this hemoglobin comprises of two parts. Hemoglobin comprises of two parts, an iron containing part which is called as the hemin, and a protein containing part which is called as the globin. Now, the old and worn out RBCs are actually destroyed in the liver, spleen, etc. And this iron containing, that is the hemoglobin, is broken down, and the iron containing part, that is the hemin, is stored in the liver for the formation of new RBCs, whereas the protein part cannot be stored in our body, so it is removed out as bilirubin. in the form of bile pigment, it is removed out or excreted out from our body. So the respiratory pigment present in RBC and is hemoglobin, and it is this pigment that is involved in the transportation of oxygen. So hemoglobin consists of two parts: the iron containing part, which is called as the hemin, and the protein part, which is called as the globin. When the old and worn out RBCs are destroyed in the liver and the spleen, and what happens there is the hemoglobin is broken down, and the iron containing part, that is the hemin, is stored in the liver for the formation of new RBCs, whereas the protein containing part will be removed out or excreted from the body in the form of bilirubin. Now, an important feature of this respiratory pigment, hemoglobin, is its ability to combine with oxygen. Hemoglobin readily combines with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin, and this oxygen from our lungs, especially if we say from the alveoli, this oxygen is transported to the different parts of the body in the form of oxyhemoglobin. And after this oxygen reaches the cells, the cellular respiration will take place, and the carbon dioxide released as a result of respiration combines with hemoglobin. Part of carbon dioxide combines with hemoglobin as carbaminohemoglobin. Carbaminohemoglobin. And carbon dioxide is brought back to the alveoli or to the lungs to be released out by the process of expiration in the form of carbaminohemoglobin. Most of the carbon dioxide mixes with the plasma, but some amount of carbon dioxide can also combine with hemoglobin to form carbaminohemoglobin. And it is in this form the carbon dioxide released from the tissues or the cells are brought back to our lungs for expiration, or to be expired out, to be released out during the process of expiration. Now, just like oxygen, hemoglobin can combine with carbon monoxide. Hemoglobin has a strong affinity for carbon monoxide. So, if carbon monoxide is present in the atmosphere, hemoglobin combines with carbon monoxide instead of oxygen, because it has a more attraction towards carbon monoxide, and this results in the formation of carboxyhemoglobin. Carboxyhemoglobin. So this reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood, because all the hemoglobin in the blood will be converted to carboxyhemoglobin in presence of carbon monoxide. So there will be less or no hemoglobin to carry oxygen. So if there is a deficiency of oxygen in the blood, what will happen? The person will, or the individual will, die. So this is what is happening when we sleep in closed rooms with furnaces burning, in rooms where no ventilations are present and furnaces are burning. In such cases, there is a chance for the liberation of carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless gas. So even if the gas is present in the room or in the atmosphere, we will not be able to distinguish it. So while we are asleep, what happens if carbon monoxide is released in the room? Hemoglobin combines with carbon monoxide to form carboxyhemoglobin. This reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of blood, and this is called as carbon monoxide poisoning. So I hope that is clear. First, one more time, I'll explain. Hemoglobin has a strong affinity for oxygen. So it combines with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin, and oxygen is carried to the cells of our body in the form of oxyhemoglobin. The carbon dioxide released by the cells are transported back to the lungs in the form of carbaminohemoglobin. Some amount of carbon dioxide is transported in the form of carbaminohemoglobin. Most of it comes as dissolved in the plasma. The third gas which has an affinity for hemoglobin is carbon monoxide. Hemoglobin combines with carbon monoxide to form carboxyhemoglobin. This reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of hemoglobin, and this is called as carbon monoxide poisoning. As we have already seen, mature RBCs do not have a nucleus. That means RBC lack nucleus. RBCs lack nucleus. And this makes the RBCs efficient carriers of oxygen. This, in the lack of nucleus in RBCs, increases the surface area for absorption of oxygen. So that is an important adaptation seen in RBC. RBCs lack the nucleus. That is an important character seen in the RBCs. They do not have nucleus, and the absence of nucleus makes the RBCs good carriers of oxygen by increasing the surface area for the absorption of oxygen. At the same time, the absence of nucleus helps the RBCs, helps more RBCs to be accommodated within a given space. If there was a nucleus inside, then it would take up more space. So the absence of nucleus helps more RBCs to be accommodated in a given space. So more number of RBCs can be accommodated in a given volume of blood because of the lack of nucleus. So lack of nucleus helps the RBCs to be efficient carriers of oxygen by increasing the surface area for the absorption of oxygen, and also the lack of nucleus helps more RBCs to be accommodated in a given volume of blood. Similarly, just as the RBCs lack nucleus, they also do not have mitochondria. RBCs lack mitochondria. So we know mitochondria are the sites of aerobic respiration. They are the energy producing organelles. So they are the powerhouses of the cell we have studied in our lower classes, and mitochondria are the sites of aerobic respiration. So if mitochondrion or the mitochondria were present in the RBCs, then what would have happened? It would have taken up the oxygen for providing energy for the RBCs. So the lack of mitochondria helps the RBCs in the complete transportation of oxygen to the required cells or tissues. At the same time, entire glucose is also transported to the sites where needed. So the lack of mitochondria helps the RBCs to carry all the oxygen that has been absorbed from the lungs to the cells or the tissues of our body, and also the lack of mitochondria helps in the full transport of glucose to the regions where they are needed. Then how do RBCs respire? They undergo anaerobic respiration. They respire in the absence of oxygen, and the energy obtained by anaerobic respiration is utilized by the RBCs. Another important organelle which the RBC lacks is the endoplasmic reticulum. So we know endoplasmic reticulum forms the cytoskeleton. It is the endomembrane system present inside the cell. And if there was endoplasmic reticulum inside the RBC, then the RBCs would not have been so flexible, because the RBCs have to move through the very small, minutest capillaries. And if endoplasmic reticulum was present inside the RBCs, it would not have made the RBC so flexible. So lack of endoplasmic reticulum helps the RBCs to be flexible so that they are able to move through the minutest capillaries. So RBCs lack nucleus, mitochondria and endoplasmic reticulum. So I hope this is clear to you. Now moving on to the life and death of RBC. Life and death. So in adults, RBC is produced in the marrow of long bones. Long bones refer to the bones of our ribs, the breastbone, humerus, etc. So in adults, the RBC is produced in the marrow of long bones. In case of children, up to 5 years age, up to 5 years of age, the RBC is produced in the marrow of all bones. In the marrow of all bones, RBC is produced in children up to the age of 5. In embryonic stage, RBC is produced in the liver and spleen. Liver and spleen. Now, the average lifespan of RBC is 120 days. And the old and worn out RBCs are destroyed in the liver, spleen and the bone marrow. And as I have mentioned earlier, during the breakdown, the hemoglobin content is broken down into hemin and globin, and the iron containing part, or the iron part, that is the hemin, is stored in the liver for the formation of new RBCs, whereas the globin part, which is the protein part, cannot be stored, and so it is excreted out as bilirubin. The number of RBCs in an adult man is 5 million. 5 million per cubic millimeter of blood. 5 million per cubic millimeter of blood, and that is in the case of an adult man, and an adult female has 4.5 million of RBCs per cubic millimeter of blood. An abnormal condition arises when there is a great increase in the number of RBCs, and this condition is called as polycythemia. Polycythemia. It is a condition where there is an abnormal increase in the number of RBCs. A normal count of RBC is 4.5 million to 5 million per cubic millimeter, whereas when this count abnormally increases, the condition is called as polycythemia, and when there is an abnormal decrease in the number of RBCs, it is called as erythropenia. Erythropenia. It is a condition in which there is an abnormal decrease in the number of RBCs. So I hope this session is clear to you. If you have any doubts or suggestions, please give your doubts and suggestions. So I hope this session is clear to you. If you have any doubts, please ask your doubts and give your suggestions in the comment section. Thank you.